Welcome to the 20th episode of the THELMA Tapes, the Living Memory Association podcast. This edition celebrates the culture of make do and mend, long before recycling was brought into the public eye. We hear wonderful tales of getting penny refunds on bags of bottles left at Tynecastle, collecting bones to be made into glue, having a pig bin in your street, the rag and bone man, selling bunches of branches round the doors, and burning absolutely everything on the fire. Back in time we go.
Right, I remember returning lemonade bottles and you got maybe tuppence on old tuppence and old money, but you had to have the screw-on lid. It had to be with it, otherwise you didn't get anything back for it.
And the same with the beer bottles. You got a penny in the beer bottles, the lemonade bottles. Now the men would chuck them away sometimes. They never lie there for very long. Some kid would come along and recycle them. Well, you take it back to the pub, go into the snug or the jug bar and get your penny or how much money you could.
Well, you would take bottles back if you were going for lemonade or something like that. You had to pay for your lemonade bottles with your lemonade. So if you had 2 or 3, you took them back because it wouldn't cost you so much.
I remember taking empty bottles to the grocer's shop and he might have a big barrel of, probably it was sweet sherry, and you could get your sweet sherry bottle refilled from the barrel and it was cheaper than buying a new one.
And of course your milk was in glass bottles too, but you had to take your milk bottle, you had to wash it out, clean it and take it back when you wanted to buy it to get another pint of milk.
Well, when I was a wee laddie, we used to go to the football match Tynecastle and take a couple of sacks with us. Me and my pal used to go with big canvas bags and we were helping them getting all the empty bottles into the grocers, a penny each on them. I helped my mother with the money, I know. I'd keep an odd copper for myself, but mostly it went for the food, you know.
I guess all the jam jars were always saved because both my grannies and my mum made marmalade and jam, and we would go out and pick raspberries and strawberries and gooseberry jam. And my granny Belle made the blackcurrant jam, and then if you had a cold in the winter time, they heated up the blackcurrant jam and made it into a drink, and it was absolutely disgusting. That day to this, I can't touch anything that tastes of blackcurrant.
Holyrood Road was a brewery in the canny, it was all brewery. Well, they had this bottle dump where all the bottles were dumped in, broken ones and cracked ones and everything. And we used to get some of the lads to climb over the gate, and any good ones would get a good label of one and maybe a wee chip on the one. Take the label off, put it on another one, go to the grocers and get pennies each on it.
Used to be a ragman. The ragman was quite common. He used to come and knock on your door, and very often people just used to keep a bag. The way they do now, they keep stuff, and they used to shout from the back green. They used to shout up, rags, home.
Get any old rags message, and I used to go up to the Cowgate, to Nathan's rag store. And sometimes I used to go to another one up Waterson's Avenue. And the one in Waterson's Avenue used to be the one, a big weighing machine with 4 chains holding the floorboards, ken? And he used to sort it out. But if you sorted it out yourself, woolens and rags, you got more money for the woolens and less money for the rags. But if you mixed them all together, you just got rags. So my mother used to help me to sort them out before I went away up to the rag store. They used to get rid of it because I knew I would help my mother with my mother being a widow.
We used to have rag men used to come and collect rags. Old shirts and vests and all that, they were getting torn or children had grown out of. They'd be flung away in rags could be, I think they were used in the reproduction of paper and all like that stuff, you know. Well, if you sorted the woolen ones, you got more for the woolen ones than you did for the other ones. Of course, there was no nylon then. It was cotton or linen or wool. But wool was always a better price. But men used to come round and, they gave you balloons or something for it.
take rags to the rag store. There was one in Easter Road, just up from Iona Street. You got more money for woolens than you did for ordinary rags.
Rag and bone man, I suppose he was, came round, and you had to give him rags, and you didn't get money for them, but you got some kind of goods, and you had to sort them into wool and cotton, and the woolen rags were worth more than the cotton one. Sometimes children would get a balloon or something, but I remember on one occasion he must have had a job lot of these boxes, cardboard boxes, and what I got was a post office set, and it had little booklets inside saying ledger and accounts and so on, and it had one of those ink stamps, and it had a little ink well and a dipping in pen, and I remember the other little girls in the neighbourhood being really jealous of me and my post office set.
But the clothes in our house didn't get to the rag and bone man until they'd been through a good few people wearing them, because that was one of the, I think, the biggest recycling things in my life was recycled clothes, and how my auntie had two friends who had daughters, and one was older than my older sister and one was aged between my older sister and me. So I would sometimes it'd been through three other people before it got to me, sometimes two other people and sometimes one. And I was, I think, 11 before I got a dress bought in a shop.
When we were cleaning out the flues in the range, the big range, we kept it, and he took it away and put it on his carrots to keep the fly off.
The cinders and the ash that you cleaned out of the bottom of the fire in the morning, you put that on the path if it was slippery with ice.
A guy used to come round to sharpen knives, a sort of bench-like thing that you wheeled around, and he pedalled it up and sharpened your knives and scissors.
Waste paper collector. Most of my time I was out in the van. You jumped up, you had to jump up, sat up at the top, and you got all weathers. You never had a cover over you or nothing. We done Ollie Street, we went away to Blackhall with the horse, down the Dale, Collet Dale. I had Fountain Bridge and I had all that tenement. Grove Street, Branfield Street, it was all tenement. A lot of folk had a wee bucket and they'd empty it in your bag, but in Powder Hall, that's where it was all recycled. The girls picked it, picked it with your hands, and round about them had about 6 tea chests, and they filled them up. And when we were getting a job to do, we had to go over and lift it up here, lift it up in the chute, empty it, lift it in. The girl down below, she was in the bailey, and she tramped it till it came to the top, and then she came down and they put it in the machine. And I went in there when I was 16, could be 1930 something. Made into bales, newspapers, brown paper, buff paper, leather paper, with stables, with blacksmiths, but there's a lot of horses, all them that collected the rubbish. They brought all the vans in, but they never wasted nothing. Old clothes, sometimes people put some clothes in the bag, well they baled all that and all, but nothing went away.
You didn't waste anything. I mean, if you had jumpers that no longer fitted, then you ripped them down and made something else. I think I remember during the war I had a coat made out of blanket.
During the Depression years and that, nothing was easy. If you come in with your trousers torn, you go, hey, where's you going to buy another pair? Yeah. Oh, they were stitched and patched, and even darning socks, you always darned your socks. To darning wool, which was a thinner wool. Aye, sometimes you just did it on the ball of her hand, you know, never jagged herself. And I can darn, she taught us all how to darn.
And kids used to have to sit with their hands straight out in front of them with a hank round each hand while their granny or their mum made up the balls of wool.
And if you were throwing away a cardigan or a blouse, as Jean said, it would have to be really quite well worn, but quite often the buttons would be cut off it, and the buttons were stored in the button box and maybe used for another jumper that was being made or another blouse that was being made, or just to use as spare buttons in case a button came off something.
Yes, I remember now that my granny made rag rugs and rag blankets, you know, patchwork blankets made from old scraps of material and and not in fancy patterns like the way they make them now, but sort of in stripes and oblongs. And the rag rug was made, it was pleated. you had 3 pieces, and she used to have to hold. She used to get you to hold one end while she did the pleating. So she had long rags that she stitched together in strips, and then she pleated them. And once she'd had a long pleat, she stitched it into a circle and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And there was always one in front of the fire and one in the other couple of rooms as well. Because she couldn't afford new rugs and new carpets, so you had to make do with what you had and make the most of what you had and use your money wisely, because there wasn't a lot of it about.
It was a frame of mind. You think that's perfectly good material, I must do something with that. Regardless of the fact you maybe could have afforded a rug, but you had the makings of a rug there, so you made it one of those traditional things.
I also think it was something to do with your hands and something to do with your time and the evenings, because there wasn't the same there wasn't television, there was a bit of radio, but there was, you had to be doing something to pass the time.
In the same line, the man of the house would make things with wood. Odd bits of wood, stool or something like that.
Oh, my mother had a sewing machine. She made dresses for herself and my sisters. Oh, she was a good dressmaker.
So you wore clothes until they were worn out. You didn't change them for another style. Well, anyway, during the war you didn't have the coupons, but even before the war, people just made the best of what they had, and a lot of people didn't have very much. Although they didn't consider themselves poor, that was just the way people were.
I had to make money for to keep my mother and that, and I'd done everything that I could. I used every idea I could to make it, breaking up sticks and going round the picking up wood and measuring it and starting it. I used to have a tin box and I used to cut it into 12 inches and chop them up into sticks and get that string and tie them, go round the doors. Penny a bunch, penny a bunch. Want any sticks, missus? I hope it's no crones, kippery, they're damp. I'll give them for a halfpenny then. Any of the old boxes for the crones, kippery, that was another one.
Everything went on the fire. You just burnt everything you didn't want. And you even put the potato peelings on the fire when you banked it down. You banked it down for the night. If you'd kept the fire on all night, you banked it down, you put that on top.
Tatty peelings and all that, cabbage leaf. My mother used to wrap them up in a damp newspaper and they were put on the top of the fire. Slowly burned away, just like putting a briquette.
But also I remember making firelighters out of screwed up sheets of paper, rolled and twisted into a little paper firelighter.
In the days when you could burn all your waste, nothing went out in your bucket, except maybe a bottle or a tin can. And if we had, say, my mother had opened a tin of fruit, that was filled up with rust, and wee holes punched in the side of it. My father used to punch holes with a marlin spike in the side of it. And that was put on the fire like a briquette at night, and that would burn away all night.
Every garden had one, a pail with a lid attached to it, and I used to go around and collect it when I was in the cleansing department. I used to turn it into the van, and half the time there's worms crawling over because it used to be lying for about a week or a fortnight before you collected it. Waste food, Ken. But it used to go for the pigs, and we used to take it in the cleansing department, and the farmers used to buy it.
But during the war, we had a pig bin in the street,
Right.
and you took all your waste out to the pig bin. Mind you, it didn't smell very nice. And on each stair they had a sack where you put all the paper in, because paper was in short supply. We never heard of recycling, because you never wasted anything.
I used to go in the morning, I used to, anything that was metal, I used to take it and hide it. Mattresses, now that was a good thing, a mattress, because it was all made in horse's hair, and that was very expensive. So if we got a mattress, you used to go into school, you run into some clothes and hide it to come out of school. We used to get all the hair out and take it to the rag store. It was very, very costly. And we hadn't any gas or electric or that. We had to do our lessons with candle or paraffin lamp. But we had it was about 1927, I think, before we had any gas in a stair and that.
But we used to, there was a man, Asa Was and son. They went round all the grocers and butcher shops collecting ham, bones and all that. Now bones, used to make glue from bones, like O'Cox's glue works at Gorgie. You know, and that firm, and it was horse-drawn carts they had. They eventually got a lorry, but it was horse-drawn carts. Used to go around the grocer's shops, butcher shops, because the grocers boned all their own hams in those days. Mm. They got a side of ham. They had to bone it
and slice it on the big slicing.
Oh, aye, but they boned it all themselves. So the ham ribs and all that, this man used to buy them all.
Because people bought them for soup as well.
Oh, aye. There was very little flung out, because you burnt as much as you could. Now we fling everything away, whether it's ready to fling away or not. To fling away time we were living in now. Mm-hmm. There's very few things you can buy that are repairable.
What about shoes, when shoes were worn out?
No, you took them to the cobbler and they resold them, and they'd even stitch the soles back on, not just nail them on, they'd stitch them. But it was a lot cheaper than getting a new pair of shoes. See, the bit is out, when we used to buy before, you went to the grocer, on a Monday, it was always a quiet day in a grocer's shop. He had a huge bag of lentils in front of him. He weighed up the lentils into bags himself. Sugar, butter, he cut the butter, a barrel of butter, Danish butter, he'd open it, slice it, package it, when they boned their hams, and they did all that themselves. Where now, everything is all done in a warehouse or somewhere. Now, the barbers, somebody used to go around the barbers collecting the hair, wash it all first. You don't know whose hair it was, any germs or lice or anything, you know, because lice was very prevalent in those days. People who were undernourished, lice thrived on.
My mum and dad had apple trees in the garden, and we used to pick apples and store them. The idea was to store them through the winter, and we put them in cardboard boxes, I think it would be, with layers of newspaper in between, and we wrapped each apple up in newspaper. And they did keep, but they became a kind of funny texture. They got a bit pulpy over the winter, and sometimes in the end you used them for stewed apples rather than eating.
No, on the whole I think we were, although we didn't throw away much, we appreciated what we had. And although we were a big family, if I didn't like a special soup, say, my mother says, well, you'll eat it before it eats you. Say, I can't make soup for you and soup for that one. Says, next day might be your lucky time, we'll make the soup that you like, and they'll need to take it. So you just had to eat what was put down.
John and I was coming along the road at lunchtime, coming from the school, and we had had soup two days before. So we said to each other, now if we get soup the day, we'll not take it. We say we're not wanting soup, and Tom was there as well, that was shared. So when we went in, lo and behold, there was the soup on the table. And we said to my mother, we're not wanting soup, we're fed up with soup. And she says, well, you can either take it or leave it, and if you leave it, you'll get it the night when you come in for your tea.
We always had stovies on a Monday, which was made with whatever meat had been left over from the Sunday. We used to have same food every day of every week, but it was always a roast of some kind on Sunday, and then it was used as the leftovers to make stovies on Monday. And mince, Mum used to eke it out with dough balls or bean. Later on, a tin of beans in the mince made it seemed to go a long way. But there was we only made food apart from the soup for one day because there were 7 of us, so a big pot would only do the one day really. But certainly you didn't get any choice, and you had to finish up your plate. Although in our house, if you didn't finish up, there was usually somebody going, are you finished? Are you finished? Do you want to? Well, I take this off your plate. Except when it came to things like cabbage, which nobody really wanted to finish. And I can remember being sent up to my room and being called back down and being having to eat the cabbage cold before I was allowed to leave the table and remember the starving children in Africa.
Sometimes if we had custard or milk pudding, we had quite a lot of milk pudding. Sometimes you would get it hot the first day and then cold the second day.
We'd get a bit of jam on top of the semolina to make it, a bit more interesting, so it wasn't just be plain sago or plain semolina. You would get a bit of.
And the oven was always well used, so that if the oven was on for maybe a casserole or stew, it would also have a rice pudding in it.
Although we had a cooker, the kettle would be boiled on the hob beside the fire, and and there was always hot water because the kettle was always sitting there, but it wasn't using up fuel. So that was another example of using everything as productively as possible.
Another way
You didn't waste anything. You didn't make things to waste. You made things to last, and when it was no longer fit for its purpose, it was adapted for another purpose.
So you had to make do with what you had and make the most of what you had and use your money wisely, because there wasn't a lot of it about.
Thank you so much to Evelyn, George, Audrey, Willie, Jean, Mrs. Wren and Mary for their wonderful memories of Make Do and Mend. If you have a story to tell of days gone by, please pop in to see us at the Little Shop of Memory in Ocean Terminal, Leith, or at our new branch in West Lothian at the Centre, Livingston. You can also follow us on Twitter at THELMA Scotland, catch up on our regular events and workshops on Facebook, or check out our amazing collection of videos and photos on our YouTube channel by searching for the Living Memory Association. Until next time, we bid you farewell.